Welcome to the Ausländer.
So, welcome to this very special episode of the Ausländer. My name is Frank Alcobé, and my special guest today is none other than the wonderful, your usual host, Marc Alcobé.
Hey, crazy to be doing this from the other side, but yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I think it was needed to do it also as a person who is also a foreigner, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we all want to know a bit more about you and your whole journey here to Germany. And yeah, it's also very freaky for me because I'm just a German.
Yeah, actually, I mean, like for all the audience, that was a perfect excuse to put Frank into the podcast because he's one of a good friend over here in Frankfurt. So it was a perfect way of including him into the podcast project.
Yeah.
Even if it was just putting him to to the other role of of making the host for me. So yeah, that's cool. I'm really happy also from my side to do it from the other side.
So yeah, thanks a lot for having you.
Nice.
So yes, I think we might start with a question. Just where do you actually come from, and what brought you to Germany?
Yeah. So the funny thing is that right now, when this episode will be released, I will not be in Germany anymore. I will be in Greece, in Athens. Mm-hmm. So I suppose there will be a need of another episode at some point of time, so where I can explain my experience moving from Germany to Greece. But for the moment, let's focus on Germany. Yeah, so I'm originally from Barcelona, actually close by to Barcelona, from Sabadell, which is a city close by. And mainly the thing is that I got a job opportunity here, so I just came with a job, which is a security that a lot of people doesn't have. And to be honest, it's something that was cool. On the other hand, I had someone already here in Frankfurt that I knew from Barcelona. I was coming with another colleague who also get this job close by to my position. So yeah, my moving was rather simple in that sense. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, of course, all movings and everything, it's a difficulty. But to be honest, for me was a great opportunity in terms of curriculum, in terms of salary, of course, also. And in the other hand, also like experience-wise, I always wanted to go out of Spain at some point of time, in Catalonia. And yeah, I mean, it was there, the opportunity. I didn't took the opportunity to do Erasmus at that point of time. I don't know why. Multiple reasons, I suppose. But I always had this kind of like feeling of I want to live somewhere else at some point of time, somewhere, like I don't care where. And during the studies, I didn't do it. I mean, I was doing this kind of exchanges once, 1 month there, 1 month here, being for some time in United States when I was 7 years old, but nothing like moving your home, no? Like this kind of feeling of now I have here, like I have my flat and we live here with Catherine, with my partner. And it's the same sensation that I used to have with my flat in Barcelona, for example. And that's the first time that I have it, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So how long is it ago that you moved here?
So now will be 3 years. No, a little bit more than 3 years. I came on 2018. It's 2021 now, so nearly 3 years and a half now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. So now we know where you come from, and now I want to know a little bit about the drinks we're having today.
Yeah, I prepared a little bit of a special selection, let's say like this. Actually, so classical beer from Catalonia, we are drinking Estrella. I would like to be drinking Estrella Galicia, which is a variation of Estrella Damm, the classical one, which is typical from the north of Spain. I like it a little bit more, but here in Germany it's nearly impossible to find it. Okay. So I went for the classical Estrella Galicia, Estrella Damm. And yeah, the other thing, it's a rather special drink. It's called ratafia, and this is a traditional, really traditional drink from Catalonia, especially from the north of Catalonia. And yeah, it's a herbal liquor, which mainly you can only find there, and even in sometimes like in cities like Barcelona and these places it's difficult to find. So actually what we are drinking right now was a present from my grandpa's. They sent it for my birthday with a box from Catalonia, so it's not easy to find this. And
so I would say we give it a try. And by the way, it would be lovely if you could see how this is disproportionate at the moment, because Marc is having like a huge glass of it, and I'm to stay a bit more sober because I'm the host of the show today. Just have a very small one, but we will see where this leads us. So, salud.
Salud. I mean, I have a big one because I know it and I know how dangerous it is. So I think the last time that I give it to you, you were like, oh, okay, it's cool, but there's a shot thing.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
This is why I give a small one.
So did it escalate that night? I don't remember, to be honest.
No, it didn't. It didn't. It was rather a tranquility night. So for the German persons that are listening to this podcast, ratafia in Catalonia, it's what we call the Jägermeister, but well done.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
it's much better. It's a black liquor that looks like Jägermeister, but it tastes like 300 times better than that shit.
But it still tastes like Jägermeister, but better.
Yeah, I mean, it has much more herbs than Jägermeister, actually. So I suppose it comes a little bit more tasty. But it's dangerous. It's a really dangerous liquor.
So I will switch to the beer again. So salud again.
Salud.
Marc and I have a history of enjoying alcoholic beverages together.
Mainly beer. I mean,
mainly beer.
Let's not pretend that we are excusiting here. Some whiskeys.
Yeah. Some whiskeys, yeah.
Yeah, true.
But mostly beer and sometimes wine, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when it's dinner or something like this, but if we go like for pub or anything, rather.
I think we just really agree on having beers,
which is it's a difficult thing to not do here in Germany.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what is it like in Catalonia, the beer culture?
I mean, we have a beer culture, and we like to drink beer in a general way, actually. So the main difference, mainly, it's the quantity of different beers that you have. Like in terms of normal production bottles, of course, we have the craft beers in Barcelona, and if you are into it, you can really go deep. But in a commercial level, we mainly have like 5 to 6 brands, 2 or 3 of them from Catalonia, and then 3 others from Spain or something like this. I will not say names because nobody's paying for it. But the main difference also it's the size. So we normally have a 33 centiliters beer, while here your normal bottles are 0.5. So also it's a little bit cheaper, I would say, but also it's smaller. So I think it makes sense. So normally we buy a beer between €1 to €1.50 in a bar.
Oh, right. That's cheap.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the bar. So if you know the bar where to go, normally it's €1 on beer.
Yeah.
In the more chic bars or like not that cheap, then it's just like €1.50 to €2. But of course, you are having a beer of 33 centiliters. It's not a 0.5. Which I find it normal. Like here, I think the normal price in restaurants is like €3, €2.50 to €3 in bars. but it's a 0.5, so it's the double price. So I find it quite normal, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it depends here in Frankfurt. I think it's changed a little bit. It's gotten more expensive lately, but in the end, I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose one of the main difference when it comes to drinking, it's more related to the wine culture. I suppose here, like in Germany, I've felt that like the red wines are not arriving to the level of other countries, especially. Yeah. Then there is some white wines which are performing quite well. Like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Riesling itself because of acidity and everything, but Grauburgunder or Weißburgunder, I think there is a capacity of white wine which is quite nice. Even with that, there is not a cultural thing around wine in the sense of what we have in Spain, or it could happen in Italy or France, that there is a wine bar that you go there and you grab.
No. I would contradict, actually. I think there are certain areas in Germany, certain regions where there is more of this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you want to Mosel or like the areas of the vineyards in there, you can go to the place where they do the wine. But what I'm meaning, it's just like finding a good wine place, for example, in Frankfurt, or a good wine place in Berlin. Mm-hmm. It's much more complicated than in Barcelona, for example. Yeah. In Barcelona, you can go around, and the majority of places, even the bars and restaurants, has rather good wines. While in here, you cannot go to a normal bar and ask for a wine and expect that wine it's good.
Okay, yeah, I think that's
right, what I meant. Not that there is no culture. I mean, I know that there is a lot of vineyards in here, which is cool, but they don't exploit it as much as we do.
I see. Yeah. I mean, the beer culture is definitely more established here in Germany.
Like Carlotta said on the first episode, I think it was like all the cereal derivated from the cereals in this country are doing well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's right.
Plus potatoes.
That's always important. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, when you came here to Germany, what were the strangest encounters that you had? So what really freaked you out as a cultural shock or something like this?
So yeah, I mean, strange in the sense of that, to be honest, in a social way and on all of that, I was, when I came here, my first job, the majority of my team were from not German, so from other countries, and quite an expat group of friends, and everyone was from here and there. I suppose there is two things that surprise me, like in terms of that. One, it's more silly, and the other, it goes a little bit more like political in this sense. First of all, it's I will start with the silly one, so we can just skip that one. And it's that I used to play futsal, so indoor football in Spain for quite a lot of years, and I really like it. And to be honest, I was expecting to come here and play futsal also, and it rather find some team easily, because I mean, in Catalonia we have a lot of leagues of futsal, and in Spain also, in Italy and Greece also they have. And when I came here, I just discovered that there is only a regional league and a league below the regional league, so only two leagues on the region of Hessen, and that they were building the Bundesliga, so the national league, that year that I arrived there. And I was like, I don't understand it, to be honest, because I'm coming to a country where it rains much more than in Spain, for example, or in Catalonia, or in Italy. Like, we have sun all the time, and sometimes it gets really warm to play indoor, like also. Yeah. And here, there is no culture of indoor football, and that was surprising, because come on, with the weather, temperature, rain conditions that you have here, plus having the thing that you already have the fields for indoor football, which is exactly the same as handball. There is no culture about it. So I was just like freaking out about it a little bit. Second one, which was more political, it's So I've tried to be involved always in political movements during my life. And when I came here to Frankfurt, I knew because of a social media channel, whatever, that there was a feminist group meeting at one club bar in the center, and I decided to go there to introduce myself and see if I could enter some kind of social circle close to my beliefs on politics itself. And the surprise of that was that there was no single man in there. Like they all were women, white, all of them, quite old, to be honest. And I was not accepted. I was not received into the group. So I tried to explain them that I was also feminist and they told me that they didn't want me. And just like I can completely understand non-mixed group. Yeah. Like, for example, if it will be that, but in that case, it was not supposed to be that. It was just that they were, first of all, like maybe not speaking that well English. So I suppose it was also one of the conditions. But it was shocking for me coming from Barcelona, where rather the ambient on the left movements are cross-gender, cross-ethnics, let's say like this, and especially rather young, I would say.
Yeah, it's much more in the society and also in the young society.
Exactly.
From what you told me.
And here I was surprised, to be honest, that the feminist movement was rather like an old white. So the conception of feminism in Germany switched drastically, to be honest, from that day. I mean, of course, it didn't stop me from being feminist itself. It just stopped me to establish a group, which I need to accept that afterwards through other channels and through Philip, who was also interviewed. I ended being in the Roter Stand, which is a group here which organizes like different sports and activities and everything. And in there, I started feeling like that there was young people also involved in politics in this country.
Yeah. Right, but it's true that it seems like exactly, especially that topic is much more prominent in Barcelona than here in Germany. Well, it might be different in Berlin. I think that is also a different story there. But still, from what you have told me already, it seems to be much more natural to be a political person.
I think so. I think there is and I cannot talk for all Catalonia at the end. It's just like I know it from Sabadell, I know it from a lot of places in Catalonia, and there is a strong political community depending on students, depending on young people mainly, and I think it's nice because this is the opposite of letting the politics only to old parties and old style persons who has mentalities. In our case, close to the dictatorship of Franco. So it's important. I have the feeling that here in Germany, also the whole history of Germany tended to the people to try to avoid certain topics in terms of politics. And this ended into rather good, let's say, for some years, rather good historical like changes in laws and making a step that, for example, Spain hasn't done at all in terms of rights of the people, or trying to find victims of the dictatorship and all this stuff that Germany has done a little bit more, like in terms of concentration of their own citizens. Yeah. But it arrived to the point that this concentration has bring the people to not wanting to talk about politics at all. So if your parents doesn't speak to you about politics, if your environment doesn't talk about politics with you, how you end being political, it's absolutely impossible. Like politics, the basic of politics is debate, and And the basic of politics is that there is a discussion around something, because if not, it transforms directly into a dictatorship itself. No, someone says something and everyone does what this person does. So wants or says. I'm not saying that the German society is a dictatorship. It sounded like that. I'm just meaning that in here, some factors made that the society put a distance between their or are having political consciousness interiorly, but they will not discuss it in public like we do in Barcelona, that we speak that in the squares, and if someone has a different opinion, we discuss it there, in public in front of everyone.
Yeah, would you say that we have a very different way of discussing stuff like that, like the politics? I mean, we just went into that topic a lot, and I would be really interested in seeing how did you try to use your discussion skills politically here in Germany with your friends or with the people you got to know, or did you actually just become another German?
No, definitely not. I mean, I'm a person who has strong beliefs, and sometimes people tell me, okay, whatever, just like, I mean, at the end, I don't try to impose my beliefs, but if I defend something, I will defend it. No, I don't avoid conflict. So if I see a discussion that it's rather going into masculinism or racism or everything, I would put my point of view on the table and continue doing as I was doing in Barcelona, because I feel that, I mean, it's part of me. And I cannot stop. First, I cannot stop talking because I love talking.
Well, that's good for this interview, I think.
Second of all, I think I think politics is everywhere. Yeah. So I really believe that the only thing that can avoid politics, or the only thing that it's in there, it's in interpersonal relationships. Meaning, until inside of certain boundaries, like I can sit down with someone who has a different opinion on certain topics, politically wise. If you're a fucking Nazi, I will never sit in a table with you. If you're a fucking fascist, same way. If you're a fucking masculist, the same way. I will not sit, because there is nothing to discuss with you. Like, I don't believe there is like a certain pattern of changing people in a or that we should embrace as society, that everyone could have their opinion in terms of being racist, for example. That's something that is outside of the boundaries, because this stupid mentality of, it's freedom of speech. Yes, the fucking racism and fascism is exactly prohibiting the freedom of speech. So it's it's a no, a condition of contradicting
the problem is, I think that there is just not the same foundation on which you would put a discussion. And I mean, the sense of a discussion is that you will find something higher than your original position just by getting together.
Definitely.
And if someone is not willing to actually accept that you have a different opinion, or that you are somebody else than their ideal, then it will be hard to talk to that person without actually completely being frustrated in the end.
I mean, putting it from a perspective of being a political person, I mean, personally being a person who believes in socialism, if I would be strict about only talking with socialist people, we will not be here, most probably. Because half of the people that I interview here, maybe they don't share the economical perspective that I have, or they don't share the territorial perspective that I have, like independence of Catalonia. It's a topic that it's always scandals in a lot of like places in Spain. I have friends who are not independentists, and I respect them as 100%. What for me it's being blind or close to the fascist that we criticize that much. It's just being like purely saying I'm independentist, I only want independentist people around me, because that's exactly the same thing that drives us to control of media, for example. Only reading the newspapers that says whatever you want to read, then you are always happy, because from their perspective it's always, or you are always sad in this case, because everything it's going wrong.
So would you say that coming to Germany got you any new perspectives on politics, or did your attitude towards certain topics change, or did they stay the same?
It's a rather complicated question, to be honest.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, because of course, from a civil war perspective and from a previews of the dictatorship of Franco, I think we also idealize a little bit what it was, the anarchism and socialism in Catalonia and in some parts of the resistance, and we see that as a historical whatever. And sometimes here you discuss, so saying that you are a socialist in Germany sometimes brings people to discuss with you about the GGR and the DDR, or the situation with the division of the wall of Berlin and all of this. I have changed my perspective of the socialism itself, for example. No, to be honest, because I still believe that capitalism is brutally even worse than what happened in certain places of the world. It's just better in covering things somehow, or it's more globally extended, so you cannot point it directly in that way. This doesn't mean that I'm critical on certain ways of implementing stuff. Like, of course, when you talk with people who were living in the DDR and they explain you their stories and everything in an individual case, and talking with them, how I cannot say yes, that was not about implementation on your specific case and how you were treated. I mean, I think something that I learned to do with other parts of politics, like being able to be empathic with a woman, which is a position that I will never be able to or I could be, but I'm not a person who is non-binary, for example, or who is in a transgender situation or whatever. This empathization I have been doing with a lot of places or roles that are not mine, and here maybe it was the first time that I start talking with people who really lived in a socialist environment and a socialist communist environment, and of course it brings you different perspectives, and of course it makes you adapt a little bit your way of thinking. But in a general rule, I still believe that capitalism is much more dangerous in a long-term way than implementing a proper socialism.
Oh, I couldn't have put it better. So I think we agree there. Even though I'm the host and I'm not obliged to have certain opinions, I think.
You can.
I'm replacing you at the moment, so I'm definitely the one who needs to have hard opinions. Anyway, no, but that's really interesting. And I think if you come to Germany and if you know a little bit about the history of Germany, of course, people know the Third Reich and the Second World War, but the division of the country afterwards, like in West and Eastern Germany, I think it's still really separating people till today. And the view on politics, I mean, just go, just talk to someone who comes from the GDR. I mean, it wasn't all bad about that, and there were some things that were really, really great about socialism. But but also there is so many really, really
I mean, where is the perspective always, no? Like, because if you go to the poorest neighborhoods of Barcelona, the main difference is that the people from the GDR right now will blame the socialist system on that, and nobody in the poorest neighborhoods of our cities are blaming capitalism for it.
Yeah,
and that's the main problematic.
That's a good point. It's interesting. Yeah,
that from a propaganda perspective, from whatever, nobody's pointing capitalism. Absolutely nobody. Besides, of course, the anti-capitalist forces and whatever, but. From what perspective? From the perspective of having a good job, being able to pay your flat, whatever, or from the perspective of a guy in Nigeria?
I think it could be because, in socialism, the government organizes a lot, and
that's the dichotomy of socialism at the end. Because at the end, in a socialism. The power should really rely on the people and not on their governor. So, of course, it's a crazy idea. I heard the other day a crazy theory which I liked also, like in terms of for establishing a socialism in terms of communism, we should, as a society, pass through an anarchism. And I find it interesting, at least like from a theoretical perspective. So, to be able to destroy capitalism, you should pass through an anarchism to build something that it's pure from inside. And yeah, main problem that we have, it's now I was going to be really catastrophic like humans, no, but I would say it's education. It's this competitive behavior of people to try to go into the direction of being better than the others. And this leads us that when you are in a position of power, majority of the humans tend to take that position of power and empower it even more instead of sharing that power. And that's the main problem. And nice car. That's a position of power, having a horn.
And always the loudest. Woo, woo, woo.
Yes, exactly. What I was saying, it's sad. It's just sad that everyone, when I arrive to this position of power, wants more and more and more. Like not everyone, but a lot of people. And I really believe that this comes from educational systems. And for example, this is something that I haven't seen changing from country to country. It's something that extended with the monetization, with the capitalism all over the world somehow. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm still not in favor of the marks in school, for example, which is something that by the way, here in Germany, it was freaking crazy for me, because I remember one day my girlfriend coming home and saying to me, I have a 1.3 or 1.4 or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry for you. And she was telling me like, yeah, no, why you're sorry? And it's like 1.4 is a really bad mark, like it's a really bad result, because our system of notes goes from 0 to 10. Being like approved, it's a 5. Yeah. And here in Germany, you go from 1 to 5, being 1 the best note, the best note.
Okay, well, I just have to interrupt you here because I'm not really sure what the listeners would say, but I was thinking about, you were talking about Karl Marx and not about Marx at school. And so I was like thinking, okay, now he's getting really into socialism theory.
I was talking
and
about
Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and this would be about the Communist Manifesto.
The Auslander, it's transformed to the Socialist Manifest here.
So,
I was talking about school. So educational systems here in Germany. Yeah, how it's turned around. So 1, it's the best mark. 5, it's 0. 5 is the 0 for us. You see how I just say it.
I see. Yeah. But what I would say, and maybe we can conclude this topic with I think capitalism has the advantage that it's pretty close to the human nature in that sense that it's much easier to be selfish than to give stuff away to help others, which would be more of the socialist idea.
Because you have been educated too.
Maybe, and to be honest, there I really don't know if there is scientific research on. Well, there will be.
It would be interesting to see behaviors from Paleolithical in terms of that, for example.
Yeah, but well, you completely right. I'm very sure that we are educated, and there you get with your Marx theory, like a lot into that, and I think I have to agree with you there. So, yeah, but I mean, this was exactly where I thought this conversation with you would go, because with Marc it's always like this. We get into politics and we get into sociology and
sorry.
No, I like it. I don't know about the listeners, but I really do enjoy that. Anyway, but just to get the curve, die Kurve zu bekommen. Well, that's the German here. Yes, I wanted to ask you about maybe. Let's start with something positive now when we're coming from politics. What was the best moment that you had here in Germany so far?
Best moment. I mean, I suppose I need to say the candy word, meeting Catherine. And
that's beautiful.
Lovely. I don't know. I mean, as a specific moment itself, there is like multiple of them that I remember being great in terms of like, come on, like this is really cool. I remember the first time, by the way, was when I met Catherine. So we had this Tinder date. And
oh, you met on Tinder?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, of course we met on Tinder. Actually, we met on Tinder in a train because we didn't. It's crazy. We didn't understood each other properly, and I told her, "Let's meet in a train station," and she was saying to me, "Okay," and she was directly saying, "I'm coming with this train which passes through your work. I will be in the last wagon of the train," and I was like, "Okay," and yeah, we literally met in the train, like inside the train. So it's a really weird Tinder date because you cannot run away.
Well, you can, but it's
you need to wait until the doors.
Or you can just go to another part of the train.
Well, yes. No, just kidding. So yeah, that Tinder date was the first time that I went to a Christmas market here in Germany. And yeah, that's something that we don't have, like an extension of what it's here. And yeah, I took too much Glühwein, I think, but it was a good date.
Another Glühwein problem.
Glühwein, it's like hot wine with sugar and cinnamon, maybe, and lemon, no, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's dangerous.
Yes, it is. From another perspective, like from a more generical point of view, positive part, and it's will go rather like in a simple way. Let's say like this: for the first time in my life in here, I had the opportunity to save some money, in terms of not being afraid of not arriving to the end of the month.
Yeah.
Like, of course, when I was living with my parents, that was not the case because they were supporting me and whatever. But being independent and whatever, the salary in Spain and the cost of life in Barcelona and Catalonia, it's rather high, at least in the big cities. And the salaries are really low. So I think one of the biggest advantages of being here has been definitely having a little bit more of breathe, like in terms of not being that dependent on if I arrive or not to the end. Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe that's also just a good reason to come to Germany, at least from Catalonia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any particular story that you find interesting that you would tell people who don't know nothing about Germany?
About Germany, the thing is that...
Oh, let's say moving to another country, maybe.
Yeah, no, it's not about that. It's more that Germany differs a lot from one. Like it's like saying, tell me a story about India. Yeah, whatever, I mean, it's not the same. It's exactly not the same, but it happens a little bit like this in Germany also, that the traditions and the ways of doing things differs quite a lot from one region to the other. Like, I've never considered Berlin being Germany, for example.
Yeah,
it's another thing. Like
it's a very different world.
It's absolutely different thing, and the conception of Germany that the rest of Europe or the rest of world has is Bavaria, and
pretty much.
And people doesn't dress like Bavarian people in Oktoberfest the whole year. It's not like that, like, I mean, I know that because I've been here before that, but there is a lot of people who expects that Germany, it's Oktoberfest all over. And it's
well, I mean, we're drinking beer right now, so don't forget about that.
You can drink beer everywhere in the world. The only difference is that in here, the beer quality is incredibly good. And that you enter to a kiosk, that we call it, like the small shops where they sell tobacco, and the whole complete walls are full of fridges, full of beer. So it's, in the first time, it's rather impressive. And the second time, it's rather like, okay, what I should take. I mean, it's too many options. Like, I'm okay with the normal standard Estrella. So I don't need to think which kind of beer I need to take, because there is hundreds of things. But coming back to the question, when it comes to an experience or a crazy thing, or like, now it pops up to my mind, like one that we had together with Carlota and Philip and Edu, who is also appearing before us, so the complete people who has passed through here. Frankfurt has a good tradition of finding bombs everywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's rather funny, just like you're living somewhere and suddenly call you someone like the police or the fire workers out downstairs and saying we find a bomb. Like,
yeah, just to explain that, the World War bombs, there are some that have not detonated when they were supposed to, and they're frequently found at construction sites, and that usually means that people have to leave their homes until those bombs are no longer harm. Yes. So Mark, you're going to...
I remember the bomb in the river, one of these famous ones that were there like last year, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember was walking through the river, and I didn't even know, because I didn't even arrive to the police place, and then they detonated the bomb, and I saw the water going up, and I was like, okay, what the hell is going on in this city, like. So I think that was a quite hilarious moment. I mean, I have others, but I cannot relate right now, like sporadically.
So we did a short cut here because I made a pun that was so bad that we really had to stop.
Black humor.
Yes, we came from beers over bombs, and now and this is really interesting. With Mark, it's a bit like if you're doing Wikipedia hopping, you just go to one page and you reading about a topic you find interesting, and you end up reading something about interstellar,
how to prepare cocktails Molotov with
bottles
of beer, yeah.
Oh yeah,
which is a combination of beer and bombs.
Oh, awesome. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, Mark is really an artist when it comes to words.
Cocktails Molotov.
So, I mean, you've while you were here, you've lived through the pandemic, and what I would really like to know is how would you have lived through it if it had been in Barcelona, or do you think there were advantages the way Germany dealt with it, or disadvantages?
No, definitely there was advantages. First of all, the sanitary or the healthcare system here, it's prepared to deal with bigger things. In Spain, we suffered. In Spain, Italy, the south of Europe in general, like we suffered what we have been claiming for a long time, which is having a proper public healthcare system, where we saw it there. People not even able to have a bed, and people not even able to have a room in the hospitals. All this stuff. From a perspective of differentiation, we have never been in a complete lockdown here in Germany. We had the night curve thingy, sure, but you can deal with it. We need to remember that Barcelona and Catalonia and Spain was in lockdown for months, like completely locked down. The only option that you had was going to the supermarket. So come on, in here, of course, the life changed. First perspective, work. You were used to go to the office every day. Suddenly you were not going at all, which I don't dislike either. I mean, it has advantages and disadvantages, let's say, like this. But I think it's also better from a perspective of doing the tasks at home, or from a familiar versus work life. Especially from my first job here in Germany, where I have a commuting time of 40 minutes to go and 40 minutes back. At the end, you don't think about it, but you're losing like an hour and a half of your life just in a train.
Yeah.
Which I also used to write stand-up comedy, something that I lost a little bit now because of that. So, yeah. I think I've been lucky in comparison of being in Barcelona. First of all, because it hasn't hit that hard as it hit it on the first wave in there. It's true that here in Germany, the second wave has been rather hard also compared to Spain, for example, or Catalonia. In the other hand, absolutely, like life changed in terms of what you used to do, going to a bar. Now you go to some friend's place.
And even that wasn't allowed in most cases, actually.
It was. I mean,
yeah,
we were just like two households all the time. In my case, I was either coming to your place or Carlotta's place, meaning two households, and like doing that, and that's all.
I mean, with you, I had the only bar feelings that I had in all the time from last autumn until when did they open again? I think in April, May, something like that.
No, no. Opening the bars?
Yeah.
No,
when was that?
No. That was like June.
June?
Yeah. June, July. Yeah.
It's really weird because now everything feels like it's normal again, more or less.
Yeah, that was the main difference. I mean, I think from the beginning of this year in Barcelona, they were opening at least a terrace outside and everything, which is something that in February you cannot do here, of course, because nobody... Well, actually, I suppose somebody will be.
Yeah, I mean, you can just wear a jacket.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But in any case, the perspective of, being like in a pandemic situation, I think, speaking with my parents, and of course I was not there, so I cannot 100% compare, was worse in Barcelona here.
Yeah, also what you told me. Yeah, I really much prefer to be here in Germany, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, it's a tough topic. And also a very extraordinary situation. I mean, I've never lived abroad for a longer time. So I think having such out of the usual situation in a different country, I think that is quite a hard thing.
I mean,
to go through.
You need to consider that I was not alone. Like,
Yeah.
I think that for people who were like 100% alone, like having a single flat or whatever, not even having flatmates, not having a partner, because yes, of course, I miss my parents and I miss my friends in Barcelona during over this year, a little bit more than a year that I didn't go back and I didn't see them. But I had Catherine here. I had parents from Catherine. I had Philip, the brother of Catherine. So at least I had a family in there, you know, like even if it's not your parents, I had someone who could support me if something happened. So it felt much more safe than being 100% alone. So the main difference for me would be that if COVID would have come on the first 10 months that I was here before meeting with Catherine and starting dating and everything, I suppose it would have been much, much harder because I was not having anyone who make this support or feeling of being there.
Definitely. So another thing that I wanted to ask you, do you plan on going back to Catalonia? Well, now you're going to Athens first, so that's another big step. But is there any plan or is there the wish to live back from where you came from, actually?
Actually, that's a discussion that we have commonly with Catherine. And yes, at some point of our life, we think that it might fit in our lifestyle to be there. But I suppose there will be a step in between. I mean, now there is Greece in there, which would be for 3 or plus whatever years that we want to stay in Greece, Athens. But we also have quite clear that it will be nice to go out of Europe at some point of time, and it's something that I've really considered, and we both have considered in a way before like having any big decisions in terms of like, I don't know, as a couple having kids or anything. But once this period of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it's done in terms of living outside of Europe, which is, I think, a rather nice thing to do in terms of a personal experience, let's say like this. Definitely it's an option. It's a quite of a big option to go back to Barcelona.
I see. Okay, let's have a short break and get ourselves some new beers, because we're both going dry. And we'll be back in a minute.
Yes.
Back with 2 beers, with some new Estrella Damm from Barcelona.
From August Konsmandam.
¿Qué?
August Konsmandam.
Ah.
All the Catalan beers actually are German. It's
German. That's by the way the cat, one of the cats. This is Mistral going berserk.
No, there is a fly, so they always go crazy with it. Estrella Damm actually comes, and also Moritz, which is the other Catalan beer. The people who created them are Germans, so it's a good beer because some German was involved in it.
Well, in that sense, Prost.
Prost.
Well, it's a damn good beer. It's a
damn good beer. Nice. Okay,
we
are
at the lame puns again. But we're not cutting this one out.
No, of course not.
No.
We are not.
Okay, so speaking of disasters, yes.
Cat's running. Cat's running. Yeah.
Cat's running around. So speaking of disasters, what was the worst experience that you had coming here to Germany?
Yeah, I mean, I have one clear experience, and I will avoid names, so I will call Mr. M the bastard. I am saying this because absolutely everyone who knows me personally will know which story I will talk about it and will recognize Mr. M, the bastard. I switched 3 times of flat here in Germany, in Frankfurt. First time I was sharing a flat with Alex, which I suppose we will record an episode at some point of time. A really good friend and flatmate at that point of time. So we switched flat from that flat in Bockenheim here in Frankfurt to a new one because they were changing the contract on that other old flat. So we were just needing to, we decided to go for a biggest flat. So it was a little bit better distributed, taking advantage of the flat contract of the first one was only 1 year. So when it was time to renew, we just say no. And on this second flat, what happened is that then I met Catherine. Alex went back to Barcelona, so I was renting the other room as a sub-rental to another person working in the same company that I was working. But at some point of time with Catherine, we decided to go to live together. So we searched for a flat, and then what happened, it's mainly that there was a clause in the contract, like in a small letter thingy on typography 8 in German down there, saying that I could not quit that flat. So because of the kind of bureaucracy in there, I'm still in loyal requirements with this person, and I'm in court because he tried to steal money from us in terms of the money that it was going to send back. So he was including bills of things that never happened for the deposit of the flat. And what I'm explaining this is because from a jurisdictional perspective of the law in Germany, the protection will always go to the tenant of the flat, like to the owner. And I really felt really desperate. I mean, it's not just to tell like, fuck, this happened, and I really remember it as a bad memory, but be careful with contracts.
So
ask for that's a big recommendation. Be careful with contracts. Ask for a official translation of that contract before signing anything. It's a legal requirement in Germany to provide contracts to the people who doesn't speak German in English. So you can ask that, know it, and be careful with what you sign, because then they can fuck you up. And most of the times, in terms of legal representative perspective, the owner of the contract, like whoever is owning the property, the car, whatever you're buying or renting or whatever, has the biggest advantage on that position.
Okay, so I kind of get what you mean, and it's again a little bit of the capitalist thingy, that you got those who own are mostly in the advantage, and I totally get you. So we take this advice for people who come to Germany: read your contracts and make sure that you get a translation, because the German language
is complicated.
Exactly, even for Germans when it comes to contracts. So let that be told you by a German.
I mean, legal requirements are all complex, always. Like in Catalan, we have this saying, we all of us speak Catalan, but the lawyers, that they speak a different language, because all the it's what it is. I mean, when it comes to legal writing, nobody understands anything. So just a small recommendation. I mean, in that case, we did the bad choice of signing that in a hurry and whatever, and it cost money. Whatever, it's money, and that's all. It's not a big thing, but I remember it in a special agony and in a special bad situation, because I was felt like really, really important in the situation of not being able to do absolutely anything.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, this actually guides me to one of my last 2 questions. And I think that's a really important question for the listeners. What are your recommendations for people who might consider moving to Germany?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really complex one because it really depends on your situation. If you already have a contract, if you don't, if you're coming here like alone, you already know someone in there. Big recommendation from my side here for coming in Germany would be just don't use the stigmas that you have in your mind for German people, because most of the times are not real. Like, people, it's not right. People, it's will never reject you because of approaching them. Be yourself, like, keep it. It sounds a little bit like hippie in this kind of sense, but what I meant, it's just like, if you're coming from a country like South European, Italy, Spain, Catalonia, all these places, my own experience here in Frankfurt, at least, and in Germany, it's that the German people, it's not the stigma that we get of cold persons and strict in mentality persons. You will find people like this absolutely everywhere. So my biggest recommendation is get rid of the stigmas before arriving here.
That's really nicely put. And, well, if you're looking for colder people, colder Germans, go to the north. Well, this is also not true. It's also a stigma. And
I mean, it's always like it's always like the same. Most probably, if you're a person who doesn't speak German, you will survive better in a big city than in a town. But it's absolutely normal, and this doesn't happen only in Germany. It happens absolutely everywhere, because cultural, because of traditions, because of language, because of whatever, it intensifies much more in the countryside than in the bigger cities. What I'm just saying here, no matter where you are going into Germany, get rid of the prejudices that you have in your mind on that, because as absolutely everywhere in the world, people, it's not following an exact pattern of being cold or strict or anything. That's institutions, not people.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have said it any better. Yes. So, I mean, I know I wanted to ask another question for the last one, so I put this one as the penultimate. When it comes to interesting persons that you've met, I would like you to put, well, some of the most interesting persons. You don't have to call names, but and compare the Catalonian one and the German one. So just with that, we can maybe just juxtapose those two.
Interesting person in terms of a single person in the same situation, or
well, it's up to you what you find most interesting to tell.
I think I would go for something that it's always interesting for me, and I rather do from time to time, and it's talking about the homeless people. I met Luca, a guy in Barcelona who was a homeless guy from Italy, close by to my university. And this guy was super interesting for me when I was there, because he chose to be in the streets, because he came from Italy as an anarchist, who believed that if there is people living in the streets, he wants to live among them to be equal to the lowest position in the society. From his words, I'm not interpreting anything. And he explained me that he switched from Italy to coming to Barcelona because the conditions of the showers and the hostels that he could take from time to time are much better than in Italy. In contraposition of that, I would talk about Aziz, which is a homeless who is normally standing around the Goodies kiosk here in Frankfurt, and he's an engineer in like studies, industrial engineer from Kurdistan, and he's in the streets because he's in the buckle that also happens in Barcelona. I just put two different persons that I've talked more than one at a time. He enters into the buckle. If you don't have job, you don't get the papers. If you don't have papers, you don't get the job, which is an infinite thingy. And I totally reclaim from the advantage of having a microphone in here right now. Like, this is bullshit. What the fuck? Like, we are creating a buckle with the immigrant people and the refugees that are arriving. If they don't have a job, they cannot get a certificate for living here. If they don't have a certificate, they cannot get a job. So we are closing them to do jobs that are not legally binded. So what the fuck you expect from these people?
Yeah,
and I use that to come back to the political point, maybe. But
let's do that.
I think because, I mean, of course, I can compare university colleagues from there and here, or people who I know from working there and there. But I think from these guys I learned more than lifestyle, or they give me a different perspective.
Would you tell a bit more about the German or the Kurdistan homeless? Because I would like to know what he taught you in the end.
Yeah, of course. So he came on the first time alone. The family ended in France, meaning what he tried to do is collecting bottles, which is something that for the rest of the people in here, listeners, doesn't know. Like German system of collecting bottles, it's mainly based by what it's called Pfand, which means you can get some cents back.
It's a bit like a deposit for every bottle. Yeah.
So you pay a little bit more when you buy a 6-pack of beer, for example, and then you get back this money when you return the bottle, which is absolutely incredible compared on throwing that into a container and smashing it to produce new bottles, for example. And he mainly picks up bottles on the streets to collect some money and save for eating and living, getting a shower from time to time. We were discussing, because I just talk about the system which is not existing in Spain, for example, about the social houses, in terms of everyone who doesn't have a house in Germany with Germany's citizenship gets a house. Most standard, like most of them, let's say like this. In Spain, that doesn't exist. Like in a concept of that, the protection of the right of a house doesn't exist.
Housing,
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And he told me, yes, that exists for the Germans, but not for the people. I mean, when you are here in Frankfurt, and he made me reflect about that, how many people who you see collecting bottles in the street to get cents are German citizens?
That's a good question. I would say at least 50% of them are not, but maybe even more.
Much more, I think. Much more.
But yeah, I think it's a huge problem, and we need maybe to address that a bit more. Definitely. Well, because it is really hard. If you don't have the proper papers, you won't get anything. I think there's this Asterix movie or film. I don't know if you've seen that, where they need to go to an administration office, and just to get that one paper, this paper A38, A38, and it's super complicated, and it's just like that in Germany.
Well, that's a good example of German bureaucracy, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you know Marx, the brother Marx, and Marx Brothers, like the filmmakers.
Oh, don't know. No.
The comedians, they have this one where they are all the time saying the contract of the contract, where the contract of the contract and the appliance of the contract, it's applying to the contract of the first contract. And this is exactly what we were talking about, legal vocabulary plus whatever. And and this is the buckle where they enter. And now talking about this, for example, in Barcelona, I learned about that because of an initiative that it's called Top Manta. For all the people who has been in Barcelona, they know what Top Manta is, or who has lived in Barcelona. It's the mainly African persons who have these blankets on the floor in La Ramblas or Plaza Catalunya, to the touristic spots, with fake replicas of clothes and everything, and talking with them. And after knowing their experience and everything, all of them are trapped in the same system. Absolutely all of them. Like the Top Manta people who are now associated with the brand, by the way, incredible brand in terms of like clothes and everything. If you go to Barcelona, search for Top Manta, they are in Raval. They make a combination between African style plus normal, like European t-shirts. Really, really good recommendation in there. They are all, absolutely all of them, trapped into that system. I cannot get a job if I don't have the Spanish citizenship. I don't have the permit to work here. Yeah. I cannot get the citizenship or the residence if I don't have a job. Yeah. So all of them are trapped in this because it's a dichotomy. It's absolutely like, I cannot do anything. If I don't have a job, I don't get the permit to live here. If I don't have the job, I don't get the permit to live here. So what I should be doing?
It's really horrible.
Get married with with a convenience thing. Yes, it sounds like strange and it sounds like whatever, but of course, like.
Well, it's once again all over what we had 100 or 200 years ago, where you got multiple classes of human beings, and some have rights and others don't. Yeah. And it's just different names for it. And so I completely get where you're coming from. And I mean, hopefully we will get to a certain point where we got fundamental rights. I mean, we already have human rights. They call it like that, but if you take a closer look at it, it is.
If someone follows them.
Yeah, it is.
Because the first ones who should be following the human rights are not following them, which are the institutions and the governments. And a person who is in the street, you can request to a person to follow the human rights.
To be honest, I see that if we would just go on like this for hours, we would get into really, really deep talk here. And I think we would lose about 80% of the listeners, but the 20% that would stay there would get into really, really deep
we need to start another podcast.
We definitely need to. But just to round this off, and this is a really, really harsh change in topics now. The very last question that I have for you before we finish this recording. Is there any project that you're working on that you would like to promote on this beautiful, beautiful podcast? Yeah.
So actually I don't only have one, I have three.
Okay, let's go.
First of all, I have already talked about Top Manta Barcelona. The guys who were a syndicate in the streets of Barcelona now have their own cloth branding and initiative and style. Even I would say style, which is incredible. It's not the typical cloth guys go there. If you're around Barcelona, they also have like a online shop. Support the people who is immigrant and in other countries. So definitely Top Manta Barcelona. It's one of them. The second, it's La Desbrossada Taller. I will put all of this we will put all of this in the
I just want to
description.
Yes, we need a description for that one. Because I did not hear. Can you say it again? It was so fast.
That's La Desbrossada Taller. It's a Catalan name, which is an incredible girl behind in unique jewelry, rings, necklace, whatever you want. She's incredible. Like she's really, really good in what she's doing. She's experienced on creating jewelry out of unique experience. So you can go there with a story and an object that you have, and she will transform it in something specific for you, unique, something that it's...
Can you give an example?
Yeah, just imagine that you have been with your partner in whatever in the wall, and you have found a really nice stone. You keep that stone, and instead of keeping that stone in your bathroom, which is typical, you take that stone to her, and she transforms it to a necklace for you.
Nice.
And the way of procedure is that you contact her and you explain why you're bringing that, what's the story behind that object, or even if there is no object, you can also explain the story, and she will try to create a necklace, earrings, like rings, absolutely any kind of jewelry for you. And yeah, that's my second recommendation.
Really, really nice. I really have to look into that. That sounds wonderful.
Besides, she's a great artist in other things like print and illustration and everything. So take a look at that. Just go to YouTube if you are on Spotify and on the other platforms where I cannot post the recommendations in there, and you want to check the Instagram of this person. I'm pretty sure that you will find really cool things. And the third, but not for that the less important, of course, in a special day like today, I need to recommend Frank Albersman.
Oh my God.
The non-guest host of today's episode. Perfect musician, incredible musician, I would say. And even better singing teacher. Just at this point of time of when it's released, he will already have a website, which is frankalbersman.com. He will also have the links over there. Guys, if you, wherever you are in the world, you consider starting singing lessons in this life, I'm doing that, and I'm recommending from the deepest of my heart. Like, this is incredible with this guy. He is a great teacher. So I would say that's my third recommendation, and I would say thank you from that side.
Oh man, I'm starting to cry now. This is, damn, man, that hit me hard. By the way, the website that Marc just mentioned, he's the designer of this very website. And so I can just give back all the beautiful, lovely words. Marc is one of, maybe my favorite students. Not only because of the beers after every session that we have, but also because it is so much fun to work with him. Such a lovely person, and I'm really glad that you found the way to Germany, that you happened to fall in love with Katrin, who used to study with me, and that's actually the connection that the two of us have. They actually came to one of my concerts here in Frankfurt in 2019, and from then on it was a love story between Marc and me, with a lot of alcohol, a lot of singing, course, a lot of music, and so many political discussions. And I really hope that you could get a glimpse of what Marc and I used to have for the past almost 2 years. It's 1.5 years, a bit more. And we had that like almost every week, and I will miss it so much when you're going to Athens. You have no idea. And I really hope that, well, if the pandemic has one positive thing, then it is that it got us much closer through the internet together. And I hope we will just keep it like this, and maybe we'll have the drinks and the discussions with the webcam and the microphone.
We will. I think we need to record the second episode of this once I can explain a little bit more of Greece. So We will do the same format. Stay tuned on it. So I think reverting the order again as a host of and taking advantage of being here, for the music, for the political discussions, and especially for beer. Prost, Frank.
Prost, Marc.
Till the next time.